So this afternoon on the panel, we're going to be discussing more about finance and funding. Finance and funding is one of the major things we're going to be talking about today, right? So my first question goes to Mr. Izu, right? And he says, how do you identify the right mentor for your specific industry or business? Mr. Izu.
Okay, even though you skipped the intro, you want us to do a 1-minute intro of ourselves. I think you skipped that. Yeah. Now let's talk about the hype man. So that's not valid, right? Just go straight into the question. That's it. So we don't introduce ourselves, right? Background or anything? No.
No, you can go about the intro, 1 minute, then we can go.
Just for the background, because the reality of hanging around GTech for a very long time is we start to assume that everyone is family. I just checked and I realized that there's 100 people. Yeah, maybe 90% of them might not have heard of us. So I think we'll just be very respectful to start by introducing ourselves. So once again, my name is Izu. I'm a business and management consultant. My core is in corporate restructuring and startup consulting. Spent about 14 years doing this. I'm currently doing my PhD. First degree is mathematics. I have a PMP and 3 master's degree. I'm very passionate about growth, right? So I just wanted to give that background before we start. The question is, what would you look for when you're looking for a mentor? Is that it? Okay. Looking for a mentor or a partner, which of them?
Both of them, mentor and partnership.
I think in reality, it'll be 2 different things, actually. Because something you're looking for in a mentor can be the same thing. That won't be the same criteria you look for in a partner. For example, the partner is more like someone who complements you, right? So let me even look at in terms of a partner, what would you look for in a partner, right? And I like to let people understand why partnership is important. Your first 1 million will come from hard work. Your first 10 million will come from smart work, but your first 100 million naira will come from strategic partnership. To put this in context, there are 3 sets of people in Nigeria. People that earn less than 1 million naira. We call them the CC category. People that earn less than 1 million naira. It might interest you to know that over 98% of Nigerians fall into this category. That means majority by a large margin. 98% of Nigerians don't earn up to 1 million naira a month. Those guys happen to be the ones that are actually the most hardworking. They think hard work is how you become successful. There's not category B, people that make between 1 million to 10 million naira. Some of us in this room belong to that category. Every month they make 1 million to. So if you look at now, July has ended. If you didn't make up to 10 million naira this in your revenue, right? That means you're in category B. And then category A, which is the journey, is people who make above 10 million. So what I'm having this conversation is just so people don't think that it's optional to have a partner, except you want to remain in category C, because category C gets hard work. Category B thinks smart work. Or category A, the guys that own the world, literally, that control the rest of other people, are guys that think partnerships. So that's why that's important. I want to say that. Now, what would you look for in a partner? First thing first, I've narrowed them into 3 C's.
Sorry to cut you, Mr. Izu. I'm absolutely very sorry. I think it's a mix-up on my part. You are absolutely spot on the mentorship and the partnership. So the first one we are talking about is the mentorship. Then we'll take the partnership later on. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so I was about to talk about the partnership, what you look for in a partner. So since you're not talking about partner, right, and you're talking about mentorship, there are 2 different things, absolutely 2 different things, right? So first thing first, what are you looking for in someone who's going to be your mentor? Track record, right? Track record, right? Someone who has a track record to where you're going to. To put it in lame terms, someone whose past is your future. Someone whose past is your future, right? So let me give a good example. I want to be a politician. I want to be a governor, right? Right? I want to be a local government. Let's even start from the bottom. Maybe a local government chairman. I'll be looking for somebody who has been a local government chairman before, right? So track record, right? Right? Hovering around maybe 1 million naira a month, and I want to move from making 1 million to 10 million. My mentor would be someone who already has made 10 million naira, right? It's how you build mentorship, someone who has sat there before. And I'll give a very practical example of this. When Burna Boy became the first Nigerian, real Nigerian, People think Burna Boy was the first Nigerian to win a Grammy. No, he wasn't the first Nigerian to win a Grammy. He's actually the first Nigerian born and Nigerian raised to win a Grammy. Shade Adun has won Grammy. Seal has won Grammy. When they sat with him after he won the Grammy, I said, how did you win your Grammy? The first thing he said was that his mom put him in the same room with Angelina Kidjo. Anybody that knows Angelique Kidjo, right, is probably the most decorated African artist alive, right? And she had won Grammy before. She had told him the kind of music that is a Grammy material. Not every song. Grammy is not won by being popular. That's why it's sad when you see a very popular artist that hasn't won a Grammy. One of the most under Grammyed artists in the world will be people like R. Kelly. R. Kelly is probably one of the most popular artists, but won the least Grammy even before his drama. So you have to find somebody who has, so that's first one, track record. Someone who's been there before, right? Second thing is scars. Yes, I said it's scars. Someone who has made mistakes. All these shiny suit type mentors who tell you all the good things, right? It's not the kind of person that there isn't a lot you can learn from people's success, honestly. There's a lot you can actually learn from people's failure. So you want to see people who have scars. Like, don't follow a general who has not been to war, who does not have bullet wounds, right? So you have to find someone who has scars, right? Oh, you know what? I failed before, and this is why I failed. I've made these mistakes in my life, and this is what happened, right? It's important to be able to have that. So first one, in my opinion, is track record. Second one is scars. And third one is access. Someone who you actually have access to. So a lot of people think that mentorship is the same thing as role model. No, they're not the same thing, right? Celebrity cannot be your mentor, except you have access to that celebrity. So you want to be an artist, you cannot say that your mentor, right, as an artist is Wizkid, except if you have access to Wizkid, because mentorship is a contact sport. You must be able to have access to the person. So I see a lot of people think they are idols. Their idols are their mentors. I know a lot of people that have their screen, they're entrepreneurs. You go to their house, they have a big poster of Tony Lumelu, and they say, that's my mentor. You're using that word wrongly. If you don't have access, if you cannot call Tony and Tony calls you back, he's probably not your mentor, he's just your idol, right? So I think those are three things in my own opinion. Track record, two, scars, and three, access.
Thank you very much, Mr. Izu. You know, while you were saying all of these, I was just trying to recount back our last, my last training here when we were talking about the Muri Muda, but we'll talk about that much more later. So Mrs. Oludari, Izu have made known to us some of these features that we need to consider when you are considering a mentor. One of them is track record, one of them is scars, and the other one is assets. Would you want to add any other thing to what Izu have said? Thank you, ma'am.
So, yeah, thank you. So basically, I agree with Mr. Izu on the first two. We're totally on the same page when it comes to that. But for the last one where he said access is key, the truth is there's so many people you might never get access to, but you can learn from them. I would say my third main point would be people that you can learn from, that you can climb and leverage on what they've done. Because some people you might never be able to get access to them, but they have things they've written, works they've put out there that you can learn from. They put seminars out there that you can learn from. You might never be able to get a one-on-one access, but there will be so many things that you can learn from them that you can still use as a bridge to get to where you're going. Because basically, a mentor is meant to get you to where you're going. A mentor is somebody that has gone before you and has gotten to that place that you believe, oh, this is where I believe I can get to. This is what I see. A mentor shows you your possibilities, that this is possible for me. I can be this person too. So having access or not having access shouldn't be a limiting point for you. Like I noticed that one of the people that I worked with Dr. Steven recently, and I noticed that one of the people he had on his board is one of the men who built America. Now, I believe that's one of the people that has mentored his vision, because he has seen, oh, if somebody could come from nowhere and become this, then it's a possibility for me. So mentoring is, for me, is deeper than having access. It's being able to learn and ride on a person's achievements, a person's Am I loud and clear?
Absolutely.
Seems
yes.
like Mr. Izu is straining.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We can hear
Okay.
you.
I thought you were straining to hear me.
Oh.
So for me, I believe mentorship is learning from and climbing on an achiever's back, being able to climb on somebody else's achievements. Knowing, even though you don't have access, learning from the things they put out there, the contents you can find about them. You can learn from them through that too. I think that's all I would like to add from what he has said.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Oludari. I'm very sure Mr. Izu still wants to elaborate more on that aspect of access, because, I mean, fine, you agree with Mr. Izu when it comes to the, track record and the scarce aspect of it. I'm very sure, and there are some unique aspects that you also talked about, as in, it is not everybody you can have access to, and that's the truth. And I'm very sure, I don't know if Mr. Izu have one or two things to just highlight on that aspect so that we can move on to the next. Thank you very much.
So fantastic stuff. Well done, Bright. I think context is important, right? I don't want to be technical, but there are words that are synonyms, but not exactly synonyms. We interchange them, right? So the concern is not that you must have access from. So mentorship is like coaching. Like an example, some people come to me and say, "Oh, are you a coach?" I said, "No, I'm not a business coach. I'm a management consultant." It looks like it should be. What's the difference, right? But there are two different things, right? It's like somebody says to you a truck, right? And somebody says to you an SUV, and somebody says to you a truck. And say, they're all cars. You say, no, they're not all cars. There's a clear-cut difference between both of them. So for you to grow, you need like 4 sets of people. You actually need a mentor, you need a role model, but they're not playing the same role. It's like how you can have so many daddies, but only one parent. I don't know if everybody gets it, right? You can have 5 daddies. Some people have 5 father figures in their life, but you can only have one parent, right? So this is the conversation. So it's a bit technical. I understand the perspective of you can learn from people who have access to. That does not make them your mentors. That makes them your role models, right? That they make themselves role models or even idols. Because here's the reason why. If you look at real mentorship is also somebody that has your back, that can gain, not just you gaining access to, a mentor even gives you access to other things. So let me make this very practical with real life issues, right? Rotimi Amechi in the beginning of his career, right, always knew that he intentionally wanted to go into government. All his life has been matter of fact, his NYSC, and this is not they say, right? That this is people like have some level of access to show you how intentional he is. In his NYSC, you can imagine how backward ago Rotimi Amechi did NYSC. His NYSC was done in government house in Rivers, right? Somebody has held him and opened doors for him beyond learning. You see, a lot of people you can learn from afar, but not everybody can open doors. So one of those guys was a guy called Ada George. Ada George was governor in Rivers State. Ada George actually passed the baton to Peter Odili, who passed the baton to Rotimi Amechi. In the table of inaugurations, you know, for you to get into anything, you have to do like primaries in election. Somebody took him there. That's what a mentor would do. Somebody from afar will not do that for you, right? Somebody can make a call. Another good example of this is Obama and President Clinton. Obama can say that he even learned from Martin Luther King. Does not make Martin Luther King Obama's mentor. Because for Obama to be nominated for Senate, right, a real mentor is a guy that will go to Democrat and stand for you, right? If you're stuck and you cannot pick up a phone and call the person, he's your role model. And that does not mean that the role model is competing with a mentor. There are 2 different roles. I just wanted to explain that context, right? So we need more role models in the absence of a mentor, right? But when you can so you must get a mentor and also get a role model so that we don't look too far above people, right? I know people who I look forward to. For example, I know people I can say, look, this guy is my role model. But if I don't have access to the person, he remains my role model. Because as you grow in this career path called growth, there are people who need to sponsor you. Everybody needs a sponsor. Everybody needs a sponsor. For some people to get into heaven, right? Somebody sponsored them to get into heaven. I'll give a good example of this with a very funny commission. When Jesus was nailed to the cross, there were 2 guys who were nailed next to him. One of them was promised, if anybody remember that story, that he would make it, right? Because he associated himself with Jesus. So I would say that that guy was not going to get into heaven because of his own merit, right? But because of association, right? So I think that we should not make this a versus, right? We should have both in our lives, right? And when you get that access, and for people who are already mentors to people, know that you're not doing a good job as a mentor to somebody if all that you're giving the person is knowledge. Giving people access is actually part of mentorship. Let me give a good example of this. Dr. Stevens' board have people who have not only been there because they need to give him knowledge. If something happens, they can get on a call. I've seen GTEx have challenges where Mike Okiro shows up and puts a call across. Is that call across? And what I'm having, because I'm talking to myself too, and I'm like, are there people I'm mentoring who I'm not giving access, and I'm only giving them knowledge? Because if I'm giving them only knowledge, then I'm half delivering on what a mentor is. I don't know, Ma, if you put more context into that conversation. That's the actual term, right?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Izo. It's been absolutely amazing. You know, I knew that, I mean, there is still more to this aspect of the thing that I needed you to just show much clarity to it. And again, please, Mrs. Oludari, please pardon me. I will need you to introduce yourself again. I mean, I know Mr. Izo, and he has introduced himself. Virtually almost everybody here knows him. Please, Mrs. Oludari, before we continue with the other part of the panel, please, I need you to just give us a 1 or 2 minute introduction about yourself, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay. So, like you said, my name is Mrs. Oludari, Ibukunoluwa Oludari. An interior designer, a trained lawyer, called to the bar like how many years ago? So like 20 years ago. Well, found my passion in designing and started my journey in interior design 15 years ago. Started my business, but the journey for interior design started 17 years ago. Had a mentor that trained me for 2 years before I launched out on my own. So I know the importance of having a mentor in anything you do in life, because that was what gave me the confidence, the boldness to step out and say, I think when I started, I was about 27, but I was bold enough to say, I can do this because I had a platform to build from. So, and I would still like to talk on that, Mr. Izu. You see, for me, I believe you're just limiting mentoring. Mentoring is wider than the mentor that is your sponsor. There are different categories of mentoring. You have those that will coach you. You have those that will challenge you. You have those that would be your sponsors. That's the one where the access is important because they will pull your hand and take you to places. Those that will be your challengers, they might just have spoken 2 or 3 words into your life. And it doesn't mean that they haven't affected you. And then you have those who are the connection brokers. You understand? You have those who are the coach. Their job is just to coach you. And you know, with coaching, you can get that from books. You can get that from videos, audios, without meeting the person. So I don't want us to restrict it so people don't start thinking that, oh, if I don't have access, then I can't get mentoring from this person. You can actually get mentoring because some people would actually sit down and pour their lives into books. Like I know Mr. Kitaya has a lot of books that he has written. You might never have access to him, but if you read those books and spend your time reading them, I'm sure what you would gain from there, the leverage you can get, would shock you. Just wanted to add that too.
Got you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Oludari. Thank you, and I really appreciate. And maybe on a personal note, my wife might have to reach out to you when it comes to interior, but that will be on a personal note later. Okay. Now back to the panel discussion that we're having. You see, truth is this: there are several startups today, right? And there are several platforms like LinkedIn and every other startup. So my question will go to you, Mrs. Oludari. How can a startup leverage on platform like LinkedIn or any other platform that you can reach out for a startup? Thank you.
Okay, so for a startup, so the beautiful thing for the people starting business in this generation, I'm super happy for you. Because when we started, it was legwork. Internet was just picking up and you didn't have all this Instagram. You see a lot of people come. So not just on LinkedIn, I would say Instagram, depending on what you're selling, I would say Twitter. What exactly are you starting? What is your business on? Because different platforms support different types of businesses. Like if you're doing a product business, I wouldn't expect you to just be on LinkedIn. You might not get the people that you really want, that really needs you, or what product you have to offer on LinkedIn. Because your product has to be visual, so you probably will need Instagram for that because it's more of a visual platform, or TikTok, or which other platform would be good for that, for things that people can easily see and be able to appreciate your product. But for maybe a professional service, maybe like legal, maybe like how would I put it? Things that are mostly service consultations, then LinkedIn would be the platform for you to leverage on. But it's important for you to identify the specific platform that would help your industry and help you to grow fast.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Oludari. Maogalisu. So I want to ask you the same question. Any form of elaboration on what Mrs. Oludari have said before we move to the next aspect of the question?
So I agree 100%. As a matter of fact, 101 on understanding what you do and that being the factor, the main variable to which platform to leverage on, right? But in the context of LinkedIn, if you're singling out LinkedIn and making LinkedIn your focus, right? If you happen to be in the supposed disadvantage of not doing service business, right? Maybe you're doing product, for example, you are sewing clothes. So if you're sewing clothes, program will work better for you than anything. But if you're in that kind of business, like visual oriented businesses, like sewing clothes, baking, things that people want to see and say, wow, if you know what I mean, they visually want to see. If you happen to be in that category, what you can now do with LinkedIn, instead of trying to sell on LinkedIn, is to educate. You see, LinkedIn fundamentally is for thought leadership, right? And to let people know that you're growing in your career. It's not for selling, right, in itself. And I think that's where you might get it wrong. Even where LinkedIn algorithm is, if you post like you own a bakery and you post a nice cake on LinkedIn, you find that the algorithm will not give you the mileage because that's not what LinkedIn originally wants you to do on it. That's not what LinkedIn wants you to do on it, right? And these algorithms are very, especially with AI now, they're very intelligent. So if you sell cakes, instead of you going on a LinkedIn to post your cake, do a maybe how to series. How to preserve cake after 1 week or something like that. If you're say a mechanic, right, and you sell, say, no, not even mechanic, a spare part seller. Once again, if you're on GG, you're on Instagram, you can post your machine that you're selling or the equipment and say, look, I have a Honda 2023 engine to sell. Now, what you do instead is, once again, steps, how to. You can say, 5 different ways to preserve your engine, even though you are selling engine. Then at the end, you now say, hi, my name is Izu, the #1 engine seller in Nigeria. But what attracted them there is how to preserve their engine, right? So it's thought leadership. How to series always works in LinkedIn. Another thing is bragging right. LinkedIn is a place where people brag a lot, right? LinkedIn is a place where somebody just changed job from being a house help, right, in one place to another. He's not going to say I became a house rep, a house help. He's going to find the professional name for that thing, right? Yes. And say, I just moved job. I am now the head in chief of, maybe say, domestic management. Okay, what's domestic management? Okay, house boy work. Which one is domestic
affairs?
Domestic affairs, So it's a bragging place. Don't fight it.
Yeah.
Just go with the tide, right? Brag a lot. For example, you finish this session here. If you need to go on LinkedIn and say, hey guys, I just finished a founders conference, blah, blah, blah. You post the picture there. People now start saying, congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. The way the algorithm works is that if you post something else, more people will now see it, right? So that's just assuming that it's on LinkedIn. So knowing your marketplace is important more than even knowing your product. This whole conversation is only valid for LinkedIn, right? And of course, brand association. One thing I've learned, especially people who don't have as much followers on LinkedIn, and on all the social media, I have the most followers on LinkedIn. I have about 12,000 on Instagram, but I have 20-something thousand, almost 30,000 on LinkedIn. And I tell you what the fact, it is harder if you have like 100 followers on LinkedIn to drive anything. So what I would suggest is follow senior executive first. Because when you want to introduce yourself to someone, how LinkedIn works is they'll see who you have in connections, right? So follow people who are high up there. And when you follow them, send them a message, right? So that they can become connections. And then from there, you can drive. Brand association is really key on LinkedIn. I just wanted to add, apart from that, 100% I agree. In addition, sorry, not a part of.
Thank you very much, Mr. Izu. Again, don't be arguing with me that I'm going to be overflogging. I'm going to be talking more on this aspect of mentorship, as I'm going to go back to mentorship again.
Hey, Mr. Goke, I think you're off.
Yeah, off again.
Yes. Maybe I should just take on from here before he joins us again. I think it's talking about mentorship. This is Oludare. You want to share an experience with us, how mentorship helped to shape your career to where you are today?
Oh, definitely. Yes.
Thank you.
I would like to share. Okay. So let me share my life experience. Like Mr. Izo has said, somebody that would connect you have access to. For me to come into my business, my first mentor ever was actually my employer. She was my employer, but she mentored me. She wasn't just about seeing me. She never saw me as a staff, because when I joined her, we had something in common. She was a trained lawyer too and went into interior designing. So of course, when I went to meet her and I was like, oh, I would like to work with you, ma, because I want to learn on what it takes to be an interior designer. She was very open and very accommodating because there was that connecting factor. And like I said, there's for mentoring connection. The truth is, before somebody would be willing to take you up and say, I'm ready to work with you, there has to be that connect. For us, that was the connecting factor. And she was ready to say, oh, let's do this together. And to tell the truth, that has been the propeller for me. She was very open. And one of the things I learned as a mentee is learning to open up your hands. You know, I'm a Yoruba woman. There's this adage in Yoruba that says, "Omotoba shipa leyon ma ngbe." Meaning the child that opens up his arm to you and is receptive is the child that you will carry. As a mentee, you have to be very receptive. You have to be very open, because the truth is your mentor won't give more than what you expect from them. Is your readiness to learn, your openness, that would actually propel your mentor to do more. That would actually help you to the mentor to say, oh, do you know this? Do you know that? And bottom line for me, it was a good leverage. She was a good leverage, because the truth is, I had to the short course I did online, but that's what took my business up. That's how it started.
That's very awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us, Mrs. Oludare. I want to add the original former title, Esquire, to the name. Mrs. Oludare, Esquire.
Right? Because we never lose it anyway.
So, okay. Thank you. My prof, you know, Mr. Izu is a professor. In fact, his wealth of knowledge is amazing. Mr. Izu, I respect you a lot. And he's not just giving you theoretical knowledge like that. He's giving you practical, applicable, business sense knowledge. Mr. Izu, in fact, no, Mr. Prof. He's a professor of knowledge. I will say that. I hail you, sir. Much respect. Okay, Mr. Professor Izu, let me use the word right phrase. I want to ask a question. Yeah. Before a business owner we say he's looking for partnership. What level, is there a level his business must have grown up to before he goes out to look for partnerships?
Okay. Honestly, the earlier the better, right? The earlier the better. Ideally, right? When I say the earlier the better, I'll say from day one. Now, that depends on what type of partner, right? So, first thing first, businesses that have co-founders have been proven to go further than businesses that started as a self-employed. Funny enough, and if I knew what I know now, Xavier, I've been running Xavier for 14 years, and in all humility, we've done the best we can. If I was to go back 14 years ago, I'd have gotten a co-founder, right? Right?
Yes.
So as big as Dangote is, right? Right? Dangote is the opposite of what I'm saying. From day one, is one-man army. Matter of fact, that one-man army is even established in the fact that the company is his own name. You understand what I mean? Right? There's no co-founder in Dangote. It was him, Aliko, that started it. Now, that's an exemption. But even at that, I put it to you that if there were maybe 2 or 3 other people, it might have been bigger. The reason for that is that we all have, the way God has created us as humans, the way the universe is designed, there's something called the duality of existence. If you check the universe in its nature, a lot of things come in pairs and they're opposites. For example, black and white, yes. Good and evil, right? Night and day, yin and yang, right? Remember, yin yang is the fundamental of life. If somebody knows the yin yang, the Japanese methodology called yin yang, right? Never changing and ever changing, you know the sign. So if you're going by that, right, you find out that nobody's really fully formed. We have another half somewhere. But the best example of this is marriage, right? Is marriage, right? If we're complete, then why did we have to marry? God gave you, and what the Bible says is your other half, right? Most times the Bible even says, I don't know if it's the Bible, but in religion, I don't know whether it's written in the Bible, but in religion, we'd like to say it as your better half. That means the other best part of it is in someone else. So sometimes we should change ourselves, and I can be vulnerable to say I've shortchanged myself by going really fast alone, right? So by that fundamental, right, I would suggest that the earlier you start would be having a co-founder. Funny enough, you can even have more than 2. There's also another theory that is called the Trinity of startups. That if you check most startups, and there's a history around this, data fact, most startups start up with 3 people, 1 falls off along the way. There's so much example of it. You know how that plantation boys will be 3, later become 2. You know that song? Yeah. Suddenly, you know the song, right? You know the old face song, right? Yes. Right? As funny as it is, there's always 3, right? Right? Let me give a good example of this. When Apple started, there were 3 guys that started Apple. Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and some guy called Ronald Wayne. Ronald Wayne, in my own opinion, would be one of the biggest, let me use it for the street slang, one of the biggest idiots in recent time. This guy started an Apple. There was the 3 people. 2 years into Apple, 3 co-founders, he went back to tell them that he doesn't think it will work, that he wants to buy himself out. And they tried to convince him to stay, and he didn't. So they paid him his money. I think they paid him, was it like $6,000 or $7,000? And he walked away. He gave up, I don't remember what the percentage shares, or maybe like 25% of the shares for that 6,000. You see why I call him an idiot? Because today, that shares in today's money is worth over 700 billion US dollars. But we're not here to discuss people's mistakes, right? Because I imagine if it was my father, right, that walked away on Apple because it's too hard, right? And I still had that conversation with somebody today, right? So you see the Steve Jobs story, you see the Apple story. The same similar story is in Microsoft. There are 3 guys that started Microsoft: Bill Gates, Paul Allen, and the current, not the current one. Does anybody remember the third one? If it's the third person, please can Google it. It's Steve Jobs. Bill Gates, Paul Allen, and can't remember the third. The 3 of them eventually became CEOs at different intervals. Right? So going by that, I would always suggest that you have 2 people. So that's how early you want to start. Now, this is in the founding capacity. Now, if you have started alone, the point where you need, because you can't go back to the past. You started. I can't go back to have a co-founder again. I can't. There's no way I can do it. Right? I can't go back to the past. Right? What you can now do when you know that there's time is when you keep losing business because of a shortcoming you have. right? For example, I'll give you a good example. I do not have the patience and the empathy. Now, this is me being vulnerable. I believe this is what this commission is about, right? I do not have by my temperament. Mr. Barry, you spent years in EI, right? You know temperament, right? If your temperament is your temperament, yes, lots you can't do. Like, for example, I'm choleric. So I can't be a nurse. For example, if I try, I can't be a nurse, right? I can't be a nurse. I don't have the temperament of a nurse, right? I'm a natural born. I like to drive things, right? Supporting role is not my strength. Now, there are times where I've lost deal because I'm not going to follow through on someone. If somebody overprices me, right? Overprices me, I'll say, you know what, don't bother, don't worry about it. I'll move on. But you know that's a weakness, because in business, there are people that your money is 10 million naira. They will start from pricing you 200K. Someone like me will be like, okay, don't worry about it, don't worry about it, let's just move on. But in my head, I'm saying, which kind of play with this one? I'm not going to say it out. But if I had a co-founder who would follow bumper to bumper that guy that's 200K and sweet talking to that 200K becomes, I don't have that patience. So at that point, I know I need a co-founder, right? So let me give an example of Apple. Steve Jobs is not a techie guy. Steve Jobs is a marketer. He's the only guy in that three people that is a marketing guy. But he had a Steve Wozniak, who people don't know. I'm sure most of you have never heard of Steve Wozniak in the scheme of Apple. He's the only founder, Steve Wozniak. You see how, you don't know him. Is his strength. He's an underground guy that gets the technical work done. Steve Jobs, they talk. So he can sell anything. He can sell water to well. He can sell fire to hell. Literally, right? So, and that's what he used to sell Apple. But he cannot sit down to do the good product development. That's not his strength. But there is a co-founder whose strength is to don't care. Nobody knows Steve Wozniak, and he doesn't mind. So I don't know if that sort of makes sense. Once you know you're losing too much deal from something you don't have, right? You quickly get a co-founder for that thing.
Wow.
Right? Not a co-founder, sorry, a partner for that thing that complements that thing.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So it's more like a complementary relationship.
Yes, sorry. I'm sorry. Just in addition, right? I didn't like the fact that I used so many foreign examples. In Nigeria, you also have that. In GT Bank, there were 3 guys that started GT Bank.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Shego Agbaje, Jimmy Agbaje's brother, Shego Agbaje, Aderinoku of blessed memory, and Fola Adiola. Do you see that? Do you see that thing? Do you see that thing? Right? Do you see it? Right? Even the early days, right, of Access, there were 2. Herbert Wigwe and Ike Imokide.
Exactly.
Right? Owando had 3 people too. Right? There's a guy called Boyo, there's a guy called Wale Tunumbu, and at different intervals, the 3 of them became MDs. Right? So I just wanted to bring that home so we don't think that it's an American case study. Right? Even God said, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. God, the Almighty God, Almighty God, there are 3. Only you want to be.
Thank you very much, Mr. Izu. I appreciate it. Before I hand over back to my colleague, Mr. Goke, I want to please ask Mrs. That mentor that you had, when you have helped you and shaped your career to where you are today. Do you mind mentioning who that mentor is to us?
Oh, her name is Sarah Daniel.
Oh, Sarah
SD
Daniel.
Interiors, Sarah Daniel, yes.
Okay, interesting. Thank you very much for that. Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Goke, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barry. You see why it's always good to always have backup. Imagine there wasn't backup and the next one I've just messed everything up. Mr. Barry, I'm absolutely grateful for standing in. And from the conversation, we're already talking about partnership, if I'm right.
Yes.
We're already talking about partnership. Awesome.
Yes, we are. Yes, already.
Still on partnership, the question I would like to ask, I think this will, let me direct this to Mrs. Oludare. Now, what are the best practices for maintaining and nurturing business partnership? I'll take it in. What are the best practices for maintaining and nurturing business partnership? Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Any part to succeed, things have to be clearly defined from start before you even enter into it. You know, it's just like you said, in marriage, what we get, we are wired to have partners. Before you get in, what are your values? Do you see things the same way or going two different ways? Those are defined stuff. And then it has to be a lawyer in black and white. Let's be clear. This is who we are. Your agreement has to be clear. Everybody has to be clear on this is my role in this partnership. That is your role in this partnership. The agreement is the first thing I would say is very important. You guys have understood that, okay, our values work together. We're going the same way. We're doing the same thing. The best practice of whatever I would say is let the agreements be clear. The terms and conditions that follow, that hold the partnership together must be clearly stated out in black and white. So there are no arguments after a while that, no, this is not what, that is not what. Everything should be written out clearly. Money terms, role terms, everything should be clearly defined. For me, I would say the most important thing for a partnership to succeed, the most important practice that you should have for a good partnership is your agreement. Your agreement must be clearly stated out.
Very much. I want to have one or two cents to it, but this question goes to you, Mr. Izo. You know, there's often these, let me use my local palace right now. They say if you want to know if family or friends unite, make money enter their mint. So the same thing in partnership. I know when it comes to money and all of that, there will always be conflict. There will always be disagreement. So Mr. Izu, how can startup handle conflict or disagreement with partners?
Okay. I like the fact that it's a sequel to the response by Madam Oludare, because I agree 101%, right? Agreement. So, but if you unpack that agreement into clause, say point 1, agreement, point 2, point 3, that's bullet points. One of those bullet points should be dedicated to agreement on how conflict will be resolved, right? See, people forget that. So I'll give a very interesting illustration. Partnership is the closest metaphor to partnership is marriage, in my own opinion. So in this world now where everybody's divorcing, too much drama, driven by social media, comparison of oneself, if you find out the main reason why most marriages are breaking, same reason why businesses also break, and I'll tell you why. If you want to destroy two people who are in love and about to get married, right? Deprive them of their simple advice that says, as love the shakuna now. Hope so I don't find person where if una fight, go fit assemble now together. You'll be shocked that some people will say, God forbid, because all they're seeing is that love that is shacking them now. But that person is telling you, experience telling you that this marriage is not love that is keeping it though, right? It's not because there are days you wake up like this, and you don't feel like loving the person, right? But if he ever gets really bad, do we both have somebody who can say, let's grab a car and go and meet? So that's what you call mediation, right? Or in law, I think it's called, there's a name for it, alternative dispute resolution. Yes, ADR, right? Alternative dispute resolution. You have to, in your agreement as partners, agree that if anything goes wrong, the following people can step in. And you can mention their names. Right? I say, okay, we have a board. If anything goes wrong, let me assume, for example, me and Dr. Stevens outside the company together, right? And we are so in love with ourselves. I mean, we vibe check works, we are match made in heaven. The same way your bubble is coming from your head when you're in love, I would say to Dr. Stevens, is there anybody me and you know that we both respect? Dr. Stevens says yes. We say, who is the person? Says Michael Kiro, for example, for my job. So let's write down his name. If at any point, maybe we'll make money and one person decides to be a human being. I like to think of it as being a human being, because being a human being means decides to be the negatives, right? Sometimes we are perfect, sometimes we are humans. That's how I like to think about it, right? So human is a fine way to say weakness. But one person gets greedy and we're arguing it. We now pause and say, let's go and meet Mike Okiro. right? So that conflict, that thing changes the dynamics of a lot of things. A lot of things. You know, in this Dangote refinery problem that's been trending last 1 week, I saw a behind the scene conversation. One Edmond guy is a former minister in this country. Now I was talking to him, you know, senior guy, he's been a minister, he's been a ambassador. You know, we're talking, I said something. He said, look, you see this crisis happening in Dangote? I said, yes. He said, I can bet you that if Herbert Wigwe was alive, it wouldn't have happened. I've never seen that view, perspective to it. He said that Herbert's role, I don't know if anyone saw when Herbert died, Dangote showed up almost every day in that Echo Hotel event. That's not something you just do for somebody you know. Dangote followed Herbert to his village to go and bury him. I hope you know, right? Dangote cried during the convention. And the guy was saying that the role that Herbert was playing was brokering deals and brokering resolution for conflicts. That there are people that can get two people in a room. And we all need a Herbert in our life. I don't know if I've sort of made my point, right? We all need a Herbert in our life. You need to find your own Herbert in your own life, right? And it's not just business, even in marriage, you know, even in friendship, because human beings would show up. Somebody that can get people in the room. You know, the greatest mistake of our generation is the Iraqi war. You know, we've not recovered from the Iraqi war. It's the Iraqi war that fueled even the Gaza, Palestine, and all these things. The Iraqi war was unnecessary, you know, billions, you know, the Iraqi war. And that war was between, who's the Iraq president again that they killed? What's his name now? Saddam Hussein, right? Saddam Hussein and George Bush. Few days to that battle, when they went to war, I read a statement and they said that if only Nelson Mandela had stepped in, true story, if only Nelson Mandela had stepped in, it was after the war, when they were now counting, right? The last of Saddam Hussein said that the reason why they went to war was that they couldn't find one person who could summon President Bush and Saddam Hussein. By the time they found that one person, they had already gone to war. And who was that one person? It was Mandela. In context, right? Saddam Hussein has said that the only person that can get him in a room was Nelson Mandela. In another context, George Bush had said the same thing. So conflict resolution has to happen before conflict happens. Sorry, conflict resolution agreement has to happen before conflict happens. The problem is that when it has happened, when you're not looking for somebody. I don't know if you understand it, right? So I think if you do that, right, especially money, and let me also state here that you can't tell who your true friend is until both of you have money. Let me say this again. You see, people say you can't tell your true friend till one person has money. That is a lie. But you can't tell your true friend if two of you don't have money. There are three scenarios. Two people don't have money, one has money, and two people have money. Let me tell you this advantage. If two people don't have money, you can't tell true friendship because they are misery accompanists. You know, they're just company. Like, I don't have work. You don't have work. Everybody in our yard in street palace goes to work. Me and you will naturally be friends because we don't have any other place to go to. We play draft together. It doesn't make us friends. It's that we are both misery. Misery needs company, right? Let one person get job. You now see whether he's going to still stay there and play draft. You see the problem? So two people don't have work. They will still sit down together and gossip about people that have money. And why they are wicked. A car passes and they say, oh, that G-Wagon, blood money. No, that guy is in Madu blood money. That's two misery people. If one person makes money, you hear the other one say stuff like, they still will not know their true friend because one will still be leeching on the other because he needs something. But respect two people that don't need each other. And that's really the real partnership. You see, partnership is not about independence. Partnership is about interdependence. And there are three levels. There's dependency, there's independency, and there's interdependency. You see, most of us want to be independent. And that's not the highest level. Interdependence is the highest level. And interdependence can only happen when two independent people come. I don't know if that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Izu, Mrs. Oludare. It's been absolutely amazing. Guys, if you are getting value, let me see your on the chat board. Let me see value on the chat board. Now, what Mr. Izu, while you were talking, Mr. Barry just hinted me. Okay, we have just 5 minutes to go. So, on the pattern shot, Ms. Oludare, on a pattern shot, I mean, while you round up on this, I just want you to just elaborate more on how a startup can maximize value and opportunity from their partners in 2 minutes. so I can go to Mr.
Sorry, I didn't get that
Izu.
clearly.
Thank you very much.
I didn't get your question clearly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so on a pattern note, ma, in 2 minutes or less, on a pattern note, can you just elaborate on how startup can maximize the value and opportunity from their partners?
Okay, so basically, would I say I have
I think we should give
the
them 20 minutes more, Mr. Koke. Let's give them 20 minutes more so they are not rushing. By the way, good job, good panel session.
Thank you, sir.
Steven.
And if you are willing to be your partner, you've not made me your partner in all this.
Okay.
I still have quite a number of questions here. So since I've gotten the assurance and guarantee that we can go ahead,
That we can do more time.
All right, ma. Thank you, ma.
Yes. Okay. So I wanted to say that, I'm not sure I have the backing, like you said, there has to be the scars to show that I have the authority to talk about this. Because I would say when I started on my own, right? So to counsel someone that, okay, if you want to start, what are those things that I feel would be good? Hindsight now, would I have started with someone else? Oh, yes, definitely. I would definitely have wanted to start my business with a partner, understanding what are my weaknesses, what are those things that the support system for. What your strengths are for you partnership. What are my strengths? What do I bring to the table? What do I need to convince myself? So don't bring another person to partner with you that's the same thing as you. I don't think you're going to achieve much. One of the first things is, what do I need to complement who I am? Who do I need? What other characteristics will this partner have that I do not have, that will bring to make sure that we're pushing this business forward in alignment? So that is very key. And like I said, the other thing is your agreement. Please spell out the terms. What are the roles? What roles do I have to serve in this business? What roles will my partners serve? What would be the money sharing proportion? Would it be a 60-40? Would it be a 40-60? You have to be clear about where you're going before you even start. But the most important thing is, what is this person complimenting me on in this partnership? Like you said about Steve Jobs and the other Steve man, Steve Jobs is the marketer. The other guy is the techie behind the scene. I have a family friend who does that to Adverse. There's Dare and there's Dimeji. Dimeji is the tech guy. Dare is the marketer. And the truth is, when you bring two complementing people together, you can go further. But when I want to be everything, it won't work.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Oludari. Like I said, we can't have enough of the knowledge, understanding we're having on this platform. Now, Maogaizu, I would like to ask you this question. Now, can you share example of successful partnership and their impact? Successful partnership in Nigeria that you know of, or any particular case study that you want to share with us, Mr. Izu?
Okay, I think in the past I've shared some examples already, right? And I've mentioned brands, but I can still.
Okay, let me take the question again. If you didn't hear me, let me take it again. I said, can you share with us example of successful partnership that you know of in Nigeria, or any particular case study you might want to share with us, sir?
Okay, I would randomly, just how my brain works, I'll just do random. So they're not related in any industry. I'll tell you the early 2000s, right? One of the biggest music partnerships Nigeria has ever seen is the Banjo Don Jazzy partnership. That partnership lasted for as well. Matter of fact, people forget that partnership paved the way for today's Afrobeat, right? It's Don Jazzy again, right? That's all Don Jazzy said in the Batch songs. When the Batch came out with the flutes, make I tell them the cocoa, make I tell them the cocoa. You see that partnership, history has not written enough about it. That partnership paved the way for today's modern day Afrobeat blow. That was the first time you had people perform in like stadiums, right? It was the band that started this, shut down Echo Hotel. And that partnership could have happened with only the band or with only Don Jazzy, right? It was that, so that partnership was a match made in heaven. That's one example. Another example, some of you bring out shoot to stone me, but I must still say it. You see 2015 partnership that unsat Goodluck Jonathan, that Tinubu Buhari partnership, was a part. Let's forget what the outcome was, right? Let's forget the outcome. You see, in project management, we say everything will be judged by the goal. As long as the goal is delivered, it was good. The goal was to unseat a sitting president. Do you know what is unseat? See, Nigerian constitution makes your president one of the most powerful presidents in the world. Right? It's almost impossible to unseat a sitting president. I said the president, you need another Buhari and Tinubu. And that partnership was match made in heaven. One had, to some level, a good brand. At least before 2015, we all thought Buhari was the Messiah. Don't forget, we grew up hearing that during Buhari Agbo days, things was good. You know, it was anti-corruption. Then that partnership now got somebody who did not have the same thing. So, I agree with you that the person has to have the same thing as you. Tinubu did not have the morality that Buhari had. The same way Buhari did not have the money that Tinubu had. You see, money met morality. Right? South met north. Right? And the real value for that was we got a new president. Now, whether the president did well or not is not the context of this conversation. Right? So I think I've given you two examples. I can go back to business and give you a lot more examples of that, right? I think the Paystack boys, right? Shola and the other guy, they did amazingly well, right? Paystack, the two founders of Paystack, right? Yeah, Paystack, right? Those guys did amazingly well. I'm not sure Nigerian tech space. And don't forget that those guys paved the way also for today's. There's the other names I'll mention, but we'll not know it. There is a brand called CC Hub in Nigeria. CC Hub paved the way for today's tech boom. If you're not too young, you know CC Hub. It was a hub in Yaba. Almost every big tech guy came from that small system. Matter of fact, the only people who remember that, there are three friends that started it. There was a guy called Femi. There's a guy called Femi. I can't remember the second person. And then the third one is Bosun. Alonge, yes, Femi Longe. Bosun Tijani is today's Minister of Technology. That was called. So at least remember Bosun, right? That thing paved the way for every other person. If you start to mention whether all the Sahara reporters, budgets, right, tech point, all those brands were all brands that shared tables in the platform they had, right? So I think I've given you enough case studies, and I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Izu. I mean, the one that really caught me was that partnership in the political sphere. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. So some of our attendees have a question, and this is from Sata Salam. Sata Salam is asking, can we replace the function of a partner with a dedicated and understanding staff? Like, instead of getting partnership with someone who understands the technical aspect of the product, hire them, help please address. So Mrs. Oludare, would you want to attend to this? So the question of Satan is, he said, can you replace the space of a partner with a dedicated and understanding staff?
So basically, Mr. Sata, right? I would say no, you can't. Because you see, what you have brought a partner to do is you're both burden bearers. Your staff can never be a burden bearer for you. Let's be clear on that. No matter how much they love your business, no matter how much they love everything you're doing, they can never be your burden bearer. They can never be a risk sharer with you. Because what partnership does for you is you have shared risk. You're not the only one that would bear all the risk or all the profit. Just like you're not the only one that would bear all the profit. Same thing with the risk. You're not the only one that will bear all the risk too. So I think you can't actually replace that. There is a place where the staff will get to and decide, oh, it's time for me to go on my own journey too. But you see, a partner knows that we're in this for the long run. So you guys have a vision that your goal, you have your set goals, and you're going to say, oh, we're going to achieve it, come what us. But with a staff can, let me use my example. I had a staff that was with me for 7 years, but by the time she got married, family came in, children came in. She was somebody I could really fall back on, but she couldn't give what I would need her to give. Now, I've been through that phase of having children, having this, having that, but it's my business. So whether there is children, whether my husband is calling, whether this is happening, my head is still there that, no, this thing has to work. But for her, as dependable as she was, a priority would always be a priority. Your partner would always take the business as priority over anything else, just like you will too. So you can't replace staff with a partner.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And that's actually spot on and true. So you can replace a partner with a staff. Just from your illustration and explanation, they bear the burden of the business together. And most staff wouldn't want to bear the burden of any organization together with the founder of that organization. Now, the question I want to ask right now, I'm going to be putting together Samantha's Jane's question together with an anonymous attendee, right? Now, the anonymous attendee is asking, can you expatiate more on agreement? How do one go on business agreement professionally, right? And I know in answering that question, you'll be able to answer question that Samantha Jane is asking. Samantha Jane is asking, in my experience, 3 people partnering together, 2 partners usually gang up against the other one. I feel this is to be avoided. What are your sincere thoughts on this? Ogaizu. Okay, of course, Mrs. Oludari. Mrs. Oludari.
Okay. So let me answer the agreement part. So for every agreement, it's simple. Honestly, it can be as simple as you guys coming together and clearly defining what you want to achieve. These are the roles that you will play. Just write it down. Simply write it down. Then if you want to take it to the legal part, get a lawyer to come and draft the terms for you. Clearly draft the terms. But without even a lawyer, you can clearly state all the terms and things that you want for your business. I want this. I want that. I want this. From your side, you tell your side. Your partner too tells his side of the story. This is what I want. These are my own expectations. Clearly state all your expectations. Clearly state where we're going. This is where we're going. Okay, how do we get there? This is your role. You will do this. You will do that. It can be as simple as that. But if you want to make it very legal and binding, get a lawyer to draft the agreement for you and clearly state all your points that you would want the lawyer to know. There's some things that will be called your blind spots that you might not even notice, but the lawyer that is coming in would have written a couple of agreements and will know that, oh, this thing might be a problem in future, and they will be able to point it out to you. So it's important for you to clearly just state those terms. Money, oh, this is how we're going to share it. Just be plain and very sincere with yourself. There's no need to be hiding and trying to dribble yourself. Be plain about what you want from the business.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Oludari. Mr. Izu, I'm sure you have 1 or 2 cents to add today before we move to the next question, sir.
Not exactly on that agreement one. No.
Okay.
I think the unanswered question is the gang up one. When 2 out of 3 people, right? So let me state here that as you grow in life, right, your view of what is right or wrong changes, right?
Yeah.
I like to say that as you go higher, it becomes a gradient. When you get to a point in life where you realize that there's no such thing as good person or bad person, What you have is good people doing bad things sometimes, right? Right. So here's what I'm driving at. There's a level you grow to where you understand the real nature of democracy, right? Where you give up. So, because a lot of things that we're calling ganging up is democracy, right? See, when you have 3 people as founders and you need to make decision, and 2 out of the 3 agree. In legal, it's called a quorum, right? Quorum is formed, right? Majority is formed, right? If you're the one that is the minority, you have to really accept the fate. See, that's one of the things you put in your agreement too, that in the case where we cannot agree on something, we put it to votes. And if they put it to vote and you lose, you count your loss and move on. You see, democracy takes a lot of maturity. And this is why there's no, I was telling somebody of recent that there's no African country that's been able to practice democracy successfully. There's no country in Africa that is doing well on democracy. And I said the reason for that is not that democracy is not meant for Africa, is that Africa isn't mature enough for majority, because what this you call majority votes, majority of the vote. You know, democracy is not about what is right or what's wrong. It is what is most popular, right? Let's not forget that in this generation, our children will hear that once upon a time, Fela Durotoye, and I'm just using Fela as an example. Everybody knows Fela is well-spoken, very intelligent, right? And everybody knows Fela Durotoye. Once upon a time, we remember in this life that Fela Durotoye once ran for president next to a Buhari and did not get 0.01% votes of Buhari. Do you know how hard that thing is hard to phantom, right? Let me, in case you don't, it doesn't make sense to you. Imagine 2 of them entering a room to apply for the same job. Will you have chosen Buhari over Fela in any job? But why did people choose Buhari? Is popularity, right? So if you're going to really grow as a team, you've got to succumb to, right, majority vote. That's what you're calling gang about. Then if you don't want that to happen, then you now need to learn how to play politics. You see, you cannot remove business and politics. Let nobody fool you. So lobbying is a major part of boardroom politics, right? Don't forget that this big Steve Jobs we're talking about, he was voted out of a company he started. By votes, they kicked him out of a company he started. That's ganging up. So ganging up did not start today, right? Ganging up did not start today, right? So it's just how business is. So I don't have answers to your question. It's the nature of business that people will gang against you. What you now need to do to be a better politician, right? This is a bit brutal in the tone, but as you go higher, you start to understand that this tone is a boardroom tone, right? We call it punches with velvet glove, right? People punch but have velvet glove and they smile, right? But that's how it works. Else you keep being the victim. And let me end it with this quote. Life is like dinner time. You're either on the table or you're on the menu. If you're on the table, you are the one eating. If you're on the menu, you're the one that they are eating. And the difference is negotiation. Hope it makes sense to somebody.
Thank you very much, Mr. Izu. I mean, it's been absolutely amazing. And I know we could go all and all and all and all. So, Mrs. Oludare, as part of your pattern shot, you want to take this question from one of our attendees who is asking, as part of your pattern shot, this person is asked, okay, it's an anonymous attendee. He says, what qualities should I look out for in promising partner? And you also want to take it as part of your pattern shot, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. So what quality should you look out for? I would say define your values. Who are you? What do you want from life? Where are you going? That helps you define clearly who you want to partner with. Because like the Bible says, can 2 work together unless they agree? If you guys view life differently, there is no way you're going to the same place. Your view in life has to be on the same line, whether you like it or not. Are we going to the same path? Yes. Now, like you said, is understanding. The older you grow, those lines become very thin. Oh, this is the good thing, this is the bad thing. But the truth is your values would always be definite. What are those lines that you can't cross? You need to understand this person I want to partner with. Are we on the same page on the lines that we're not going to cross? Or the person is on a different line, because those are the things that will start to cause conflict, whether you like it or not. Once your values don't align, there would be problems. And then the second thing I would say is, how would this person complement me? What are those things that you need help on? What are the weaknesses that you need somebody that has the positive strengths to come and align with you so that you can go forward? So two things are majorly important for me: values and what would the person bring to the table as complementing you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Oludare. Mr. Izu, in 1 minute, your pattern shot as regards startup partnership and selecting a mentor. Thank you very much, sir.
It's really hard to add anything after Madam has said what she said, because those are like the exact words, and I agree 100%. I think that one thing people need to do is change their mindset of what success looks like. Nigeria gives an illusion that it is a badge of honor to make it yourself. In reality, there's no such thing as I made it myself. Lone Ranger is originally a cartoon concept. It's a cartoon called a Lone Ranger. There's something called a Lone. There's a particular cartoon called Lone Ranger. It's a caricature. It didn't exist. It's just a cartoon. There is no such thing in life as Lone Ranger. Everybody that's climbing up the ladder had somebody up there that threw the ladder down, and somebody down there that held the ladder while he's climbing. If you understand that, you treat people differently, right? You take away the pride that makes you not ask for help, right? I'm trying to clap with one hand. You see how you can't hear me? Just see this. Can you see how much you can hear me? Because two just came together. To go fast, you go alone. To go far, you go together. Teamwork will make the dream work. It's a skill to ask for help. It's a skill to ask for help. But if you ever need to ask for help, don't be a parasite. Give value first while you ask for help. One thing I've learned is when I see someone, the first thing that hits me is, how can I add value to this guy first? Even if I don't have anything else to ask from him. Even if there's something to ask first, I want to give him something first. So I'm researching on what does he not have in his life, right? And I'm sending him an email saying, I notice you're so good at this. Can I help you with this? And then it gives us access. So to go fast, you go alone. To go far, you go together. Cheers. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at the top.